So Stefano, I would like to start our lovely meeting with the sentence that is at the beginning of this wonderful book, Healing Trauma by Peter Levine. And it says, if you bring forth that which is within you, then that which is within you will be your salvation. If you do not bring forth that which is within you, then that which is within you will destroy you. The Gnostic Gospels. I think this is a wonderful start.
Wow. So why did that stand out for you today?
Well, not only because it's at the beginning of the book, so it's like a statement, like you need to face
Like, boom.
whatever you perceived as overwhelming, there for a reason, and is about to teach you something. So
wow, love that. What a great way to kick off today. Awesome.
Let's kick off like this.
Yeah, all right, let's do it. So Sarah, thank you so much for being here. I can't wait to hear more about your journey as a solopreneur. So let's start with a little bit about your background. Where are you based? How did you become a solopreneur? Tell us a little bit about your history.
Okay, so my big passion was communication. And therefore, my background has been working for more than a decade in communication. Specifically, communication plus creativity. So I worked for many years in a photography school, and then I started freelancing. And the problem is that once you start freelancing, if you like it, there's no going back. And that is what happened to me. That's why no matter what I did, I knew it had to be so what is defined now as solopreneur. It didn't exist back then, but I love to work for myself. But my recent career started 10 years ago when I moved to London. And back then I was still working in communication, and I wanted to do that, and as well as exploring a bit more my other passion, that was illustration. So after exploring the world of creative people, I decided, hey, I want to try my own creativity, and I illustrate some things, and I really enjoyed it. So I landed.
Do you have any examples to hand?
Oh my God, no, not at hand. Sadly,
No,
not at hand.
Up there behind you, no?
Okay. If you really want to do that.
Let's do it.
Oh, let's do it. It must be here somewhere. Here it is. Okay. So this is a book that I illustrated after COVID, because this lovely woman wanted to tell a story about COVID.
Wow.
And how it was, guess who fixed COVID? Vegetables.
Veggie power. Veggie power.
Veggie power. So it was all about this little girl who started planting veggies, and the veggies, surprise, surprise, came alive. And so there were this tricky tomato, a radish, a carrot, and a mangetout.
Wow.
And they saved the world. Long story short. But look, the illustration I'm most proud of was this, to show how instead of vaccine, she wanted a pea. I couldn't say anything about that. So I said, let's not go into that, but okay. So that was fun.
It's amazing. How did I not know that about you?
A surprise. I like surprises.
You are full of surprises, yeah. So
I'm
go on. Continue with your story.
So I got to London, and I wanted to explore these two big areas, communication and illustration. And that was the plan. But sometimes plans don't work, because I experienced something that was totally unexpected, which was a massive cultural shock. So by then, I had been to London quite a few times. So I thought, come on, I love English culture. I will be happy. Everything will be perfect. But I didn't realize this was a tourist point of view. This was the Italian going there for a weekend, going places, museum, experiencing all the buzz, and then going back home. And it didn't work when I moved there because I lost all my Italian life. And I was shocked. So as a consequence, I started having panic attacks. And that's when I decided I need some help to, you know, navigate this big transition that was starting a life in another country with a very different culture, with fear of, you know, someone who stare into your eyes, wants to touch you while they talk. So everything I was doing was wrong, culturally speaking, not in general. I was too human. I was too overexcited. And therefore, I was constantly reminded, it doesn't work here. You cannot act like that. And so
Wow.
I did seek for help. I did seek for help because I knew that if I went to a GP, they would give me a pill. And I knew that was not what I was after. So I started exploring the holistic world, and I tried every single therapy available. And London is very good when you are curious and you want to find something, because it gives you all the options in the world. So name a holistic therapy, I tried it. Craniosacral, acupuncture, ecstatic dance, I've done them all. And they all worked, but just for a while. Until I went back to a therapy that I already tried in Italy that is called the Greenberg method. And I found a therapist. And that's when I felt this is what can totally take me to this other side of the bridge. That
Wow. Can you just say the name of that again?
is called Greenberg method by
Greenberg.
Avi
Okay.
Greenberg, who is a wonderful therapist from Israel.
Okay.
And so basically his theory is that the body keeps track of what did overwhelm you. And so you will find, and it's exactly what every somatic therapist will find, including Peter Levine in this book. So whatever is being unresolved stays in the body until you go there and put your finger there and say, what's happening here? Why didn't you want to feel this? Why did you feel overwhelmed? We need to unleash this thing, unleash the beast, because it's not serving you. It's just keeping some areas of you completely stuck, frozen, disconnected. And that's what I experienced going to this therapist, that it was like melting, like blocks of ice within my body and within my soul. It was incredible.
Wow.
Every time I was out of a session, I felt I was seeing the world around me in a different way. And so I started to become really curious about that. But I noticed that when this therapist involved the feet, the touch of the feet, I got bigger results. Like there was no comparison. So I spoke to my therapist in Italy, say, hey, what is this thing about the feet? And she said, we're developing a branch of the Greenberg method only on feet. And it's going to be called the footwork method.
Wow. Okay.
And suddenly, out of the blue, and I never had that thing before, I felt I wanted to know more, and I wanted to touch feet, which is pretty weird if you didn't have that within you before. So I started to explore more and more. And then I became a therapist in this footwork method because I felt it was amazing to, first of all, being able to transform people's lives, especially what they didn't know about the stress-related body patterns. That was what I found extremely fascinating, and because it worked on me, so I wanted to do it on other people. Second thing, it provided me a wonderful excuse to touch people. I was a therapist and I needed to touch people.
That was already inside you from years before.
Yes. No, it was my Italian side. You know, I was dying to touch people, but British culture, as I said, is not exactly keen on touch or body in general, but that's another story. So I became a therapist. And after that, I decided to add another piece to my toolkit. And I went to the London School of Reflexology. And I got a certificate in traditional reflexology, because these two techniques have completely different approaches, different mapping. They see different things in the feet, different touch, and there's also different role for the patient. So with footwork, the patient must become aware of what he's doing in his stress response. Reflexology is, let me say this, is more passive. It's more like you receive a treatment that is deeply relaxing, but is not necessarily transformative, or it doesn't share the whole journey with the person who's receiving the treatment, while footwork wants you to become part of your journey. So I thought these two must be combined, and I did combine them. And that's it. And that's how I created what I call power reflexology, because it's a combined technique involving this.
Wow, I love that. Wow. So that's fruits from those two seeds.
Mm-hmm.
Power reflexology.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing. Amazing. Wow. What a journey. And so like you kind of explain the kind of the how it works. What kind of results do people get from this?
They let go of so many weights they didn't know they had. They find again that lightness, that joy, that ability to not to take things so seriously. Because I think, when you have something within yourself that is preventing you from accessing your full vitality, your full energy, you feel as if there's something holding you back, and you feel it is a physical sensation.
Yeah, it's like yeah.
There's something, and you ask yourself, I would like to do this, but there is something holding me back. And you also feel a bit, what's wrong with me? There's nothing wrong, you are right. There is something holding you back because it's a previous stress response that didn't have the chance to be released and is still there holding you back in your body. But once you feel what it's like to release that, is different from learning it with your mind. Is a body to body kind of learning, and you feel, oh, I feel a lot lighter.
It's like a
lighter.
kinesthetic learning.
Totally. And therefore you feel the space stretches. You feel you have
I mean
more space.
your internal space.
Internal, but it's also external. I don't know. I mean, I know it starts from within, but then it expands really your reality. You feel your reality is bigger.
Wow.
And within a bigger reality, you can welcome more possibilities because you also consider things that you haven't considered before. Because before, your perception was so narrow that you couldn't feel some things. For example, one of the feelings that did stay for me after one of my first sessions as a client was, wow, I never thought about this thing as something fun. So touching the feet, for example, I felt this could be fun. I never associated, fun and touching the feet. So that was, for example, a possibility that opened up for me that I had never considered.
Yeah, because that doesn't come to me naturally either to make that association.
No, it was really a feeling in the body. It was like, oh, that can be fun. I would like to explore,
Wow.
And I'm doing this with my hand because it was really a feeling, a craving, like I would love to do that.
Wow, that's incredible. So, okay, so that's how you became a solopreneur, right? That's your journey. So through curiosity, intrigue, a personal need,
And a
as
massive
well.
breakdown, and a massive, like.
Well, I didn't quite put it in those words, but that's beautiful, right? Spanning different countries and cultures as well. And so right now, why do you choose to continue being a solopreneur as opposed to perhaps working with an organization or a health institute, for example?
I never felt the desire to work in an organization. I always wanted to explore other things, to collaborate with other people. Yes, many times. Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
But always staying, you know,
Mm,
like solopreneur. I
yeah.
like to make my own rules, and I like to create new rules.
Mm,
And
mm,
from my experience, every time you are working with big organization, because sometimes I was called as a therapist to work within, there are these never-ending list of rules that I have really some troubles with. I do
mm.
understand why they are there, but there is something in my soul that doesn't work with that.
Yeah, actually, there's a couple of points I'd love to pick on there. So it is very often the case that us solopreneurs can have a bit of a rebellious streak in us, you know, this will to do things our
Say that.
way or differently or unconventionally. So I feel that totally. Um, and also what you mentioned before, you collaborate with people, you enjoy collaborating with people. So I think that's quite an important distinction. Just because you are your own business owner, a solopreneur, doesn't mean that you don't work with other people or that you're not open to, you know, collaborations or co-creating projects together. And even with organization, so you really pointed out something that's quite important. An organization will have code, a code of conduct, criteria, rules, right? And a lot of people kind of take those as set in stone because it's an organization. It can't be changed. Actually, I mean, you know, organizations are run by people, and so I always find that if you're going to um, even be hired externally, for example, there is space for dialogue, right, to explore and co-create some rules, co-create some guidelines, some
Absolutely,
boundaries, right?
absolutely yes. But the thing is, with the people you collaborate with, if you're a solopreneur, you can choose them. So
Hmm.
that makes. And
Great
second
point.
thing, the company that contacts you, for example, and wants to work with you, again, can be open to dialogue. And that actually, when they're looking for change, it means that they want to change something. So generally speaking, they are open.
Mm,
But again, I have my own boundaries, knowing that I need something to work properly and effectively.
yeah,
So there are some, I have some rules myself.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
if I
Actually,
get to that point and we can
yeah,
find, you know, a common ground where we
yeah,
do respect each other's boundaries, is fine. Otherwise, it cannot work. And I think, and this is something that I learned being a solopreneur, because
mm,
before, especially at the beginning, I thought I had to say yes to pretty much everything because everything sounded like a great opportunity.
mm.
And I discovered everything in life is a match. If it's a good match, it works. If it's not a good match, it doesn't work.
Oh,
So there's no,
let's capture that quote.
let's capture that.
Sara Pittaluga. Everything
So
in life is a
everything in life
match.
is a match. If it's a good match, it works. If it's not a good match, it doesn't work. And this takes away completely the blame, the guilt.
Mm, mm,
So you can be a wonderful person and you can be a bad match for
yeah,
a partner, a relationship, a friend, an
yeah.
event, an organization, a work, everything.
I think that's a really, really important point that you raised there. You know, you can be the best business person in the world, but if it's not a right match with your business partner, with the project that you've created, if it doesn't fit your values, it's not going to work. Um, and it takes away the blame element that you said, I think, which is something I've struggled with in the past, you know, always blaming yourself. I didn't work because you didn't do enough or you didn't do it well, like correctly,
Mhm.
or, oh yeah, I totally get that. So, so what's happening in your industry right now that is either fascinating or something that is dominating the industry? Any particular trend that's standing out for you right now? What are you noticing or seeing?
I am seeing, and I'm really excited and grateful for that, an increasing interest, an
Mm,
increase awareness about
mm,
the role of stress response, physiology, environment,
mm-hmm,
meaning, and all sorts of environments, you know, like
mm-hmm,
micro and macro, like everything, interactions, connections. So I feel as if uh, not only my field, but all around the world, the picture is becoming bigger. And we're finally understanding that everything is connected. We cannot, take one issue and isolate it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everything affects everything else. And
Mhm.
I think this is about, is in every big issue that we have right now. Like it's about the climate change,
Yeah.
is about women, is about minorities, is about immigrants. Italy is talking a lot about that, and don't get me started with that, because I don't agree with anything that's been done. So, but this is to say, until we see a bigger picture and we develop that kind of mindset that is not aiming at fixing, a problem that is here and now, but we are imagining, long-term solution. We are imagining big shifts. We are doing it wrong. We are not using it as an opportunity. We are just trying to make politic propaganda or whatever. But we are just, when we're playing with people's fears. So what I'm very excited about right now is the work of a therapist called Irene Lyon, and she is an expert about the nervous system.
Okay.
And what she does is she does everything she can, and she's amazing, to make people realize that regulating your own nervous system is the key for everything. Okay. You cannot enjoy life, you cannot fix trauma. She talks a lot about the difference, for example, between trauma, stress, they're not the same thing. But for her, there is a very basic work that has to be done. Because if you're not aware on how to regulate your own nervous system, then
wow, I imagine that is a topic in itself to discuss, to explore. Is there any particular work or book or paper that you could quote of hers for anybody watching this to research?
If you go on her Instagram page, Irene Lyon, Lyon, she has tons of material, and there's a wonderful guide that is free. You can download a lot of free stuff.
Okay.
And it's really, really, I don't know, I find it extremely inspiring, extremely, it does affect also my trust that things can really change, because I see that out there, even if on social media it has become, everything has become a bit confused in a way, because we do have access to more professionals, but it's also hard to navigate and to understand who's got the right background and who is just a great influencer. There's nothing wrong about that, but
I think that's a bit of a common theme that's come up with the other solopreneurs as well in our community. That topic of who's authentic, who's genuine, who actually has the expertise as well. I think those are really important points. But sorry, continue. I interrupted you.
So she does. She has all the expertise. You can see also her background, the studies. She is more than prepared. I mean, she's been doing this for decades. And she has a wonderful way to explain things and make them accessible. So my goal for next year is just to study as much as I can what she does, because she's amazing.
Okay, great. Thank you for sharing that with us. In fact, I was going to ask you, what is your current focus right now as a solopreneur? What's most important to you at the moment?
My goal is always the same, which is just to make people feel what it's like to get rid of the stress response. Just to transform your stress into an ally, not an enemy, but just as a wonderful tool to access awareness and to discover a lot of things about yourself that you wouldn't if you decided, it's bad.
I think you need to say that again, because I think the first time that we spoke about this, I had no idea that was possible. I mean, I had some idea that, I think,
So
well,
let me reframe it. We read a lot, about the importance of being the best version of yourself.
mm,
And every time I heard that, there was something that didn't sit well with me. It didn't
mm,
resonate. It felt fake. It felt, what does it mean? Does it mean that if I'm vulnerable, or if I have a very bad day, or whatever's going on with me, does it mean that I'm not a good enough version of myself?
mm,
So my perception, my idea is just, instead of aiming to that, let's start by becoming friend with the worst version of yourself, which is what we all become when we are threatened, when we feel threatened. That is not the same thing. When we perceive a threat. And that is when all the stress response kicks in. So that is when we become people who are afraid, who don't feel seen, who wants to, again, fight, flight, freeze, or
become
fawn.
constricted. Yeah.
Exactly. And from that place, we make so many choices.
Mm,
We make so many choices. And those are, generally speaking, poor choices, because we're not creating from a place of desire and power. We are creating from a place of fear.
mm,
So my main goal has always been this, to make people realize that that is a gold mine. Our
wow.
stress response will tell us so much more about us than who we are when we shine under the spotlight.
Yeah.
Interesting,
Wow.
but not much. Who we are when we are in the deepest shit and we're trying to get out. How do we get out? Because that says a lot. Think about it. It says a lot about our family history, our childhood experiences, our relationships. Because when we are triggered, we all tend to, act on a stress response. And therefore, we are always the ones in a couple arguing, breaking up, name
Reaction
it,
mode.
reaction mode. So the deeper we can go into that, the deeper we can get to know ourselves, and then try from that place to make better choices.
Wow. Oh my goodness. I'm super curious to know how you actually do that, because, do you have clients, or do you call them clients or patients? Clients.
I have people,
Cool. Human beings
human beings.
who,
So I do that in different ways. I do that with one-to-one sessions, whether I use either the reflexology, because from my experience, having an access to the body, so starting from the body, is my way of doing that. It doesn't work for everybody. Some people are happier to work, with a psychologist or all sorts of therapists doing, accessing the mind first. Whatever works, I'm happy with. But I need to access the body. Body and mind we know that they're linked. By now, we know that. It depends which for you is the door and which one is the window you want to open after. For me, the door is the body, and the mind is the window you open after, not the other way around.
wow.
So I do that when I do the sessions, either with parareflexology or also with another tool that I will drop like a bomb here, that is called access bars. That is a powerful tool just to reset your point of view, what are your ideas on life, what is good and bad. It really touches the polarities that you're playing
Wow.
with in your life. So
Okay.
I know I'm putting a lot of stuff.
I mean, you've got a lot of tools in your toolkit.
But I've got a lot of tools, and I love to. For me, they're all like like a toolkit. Imagine, and I'm like, well, what can I use now? Like when you see a magician, it's like, let's open the secret box. Ta-da! I'm gonna use this or that, because everyone is different. So
Yeah.
you need to be a flexible therapist to understand what works best. And then I have created and developed a workshop that is called Your Stressed Twin.
Okay,
And
tell us about that.
how to befriend it. because we need to befriend it.
So befriending your stress twin. Tell us more.
So I missed the last piece. I was like, what is he asking?
Oh, sorry.
So this is a workshop that explores everything we talked about so far. So what is your stress response? How do you get to know who you become? What I define as stress twin, but is always us. So who we become when we are in stress response mode. Which one is our go-to coping mechanism? It's never just one. We all play a bit with different ones, but it's interesting to know which one is your favorite or which tendency you use more. And then we explore people who have studied about stress response. So I think it's extremely fascinating to see people who have dedicated their life, studying this and what they discovered. So there is a bit of that.
Okay.
And then we explore the techniques that I have found most beneficial and at the same time very simple. So for me, it's all about becoming aware of what triggers us and being so aware and fast that we manage to use a technique, simple, that prevents us from going into stress response.
I'm just waiting for the door to crack. There we go.
That's it.
Wow. And so you've got this jam-packed into a workshop.
Yes.
So how often do you run your workshops, for example?
Twice a year so far.
Okay.
I'll see if in 2024 I'll do more of that or less, because so far I've done it only in Italian, but I would love to do it in English too. So that would put up different scenarios and different, experiences that I.
So you effectively run a multilingual business, or at least a bilingual business.
Yes, I would love that.
Well, you've got background in communication, creativity as well. I mean, how does that impact your work in any way? Communicating different languages.
Everything affects what I do, meaning that I've learned a lot during my years exploring, communication, and I know everything depends on who you're talking to. Simple as that. What works for one person doesn't work for another. So depending on who is the recipient of whatever I'm doing, you need to adjust your language and the experience itself. But having said that, what I think is really fun for me is that I've learned so many things that I use today, just living, just doing things that I didn't know back then. They were part of my journey, but now looking back, I can connect the dot. I give you an example.
Give us an example.
For years, I have been a volunteer clown in hospitals.
Wow.
Because I had this funny side and I didn't know how to use it. And I discovered, but only recent years, that it was a coping mechanism for me, The person who makes people laugh is always loved, appreciated, etc. So I became the clown every time I felt vulnerable and I felt that I wasn't feeling comfortable. So up to a point, I used that. And now I don't. I can be funny, but I decide when I want to do that. I don't do it as a reaction.
Wow.
But for years, I've been a volunteer clown in hospitals. So no matter if it was a coping mechanism, it did work well. And I learned so many things that I'm using right now about how to get people attention, how to listen, how to understand the language, and how to respect other people's boundaries.
Wow.
Because nothing helps you like working with really vulnerable people. And I'm not saying that the people I have today when I work are not vulnerable, but it's a different thing.
Different
Going to hospice.
extremes.
Yes. I mean, I even went to hospices just for a
Wow.
very short time. That was too intense. But I mean, that is a serious life or death kind of situation. It's not like, I don't get along. So
yeah, it's incredible, isn't it? As a solopreneur, where you pick up all these tools just going through life, and you can just bring them into work and how you deal with
we all
people.
do. We all do. I think if my thought was that, yes, if I can give an advice to everyone who feels, the I'm not good enough thing that we all do, I think every now and then,
Give us your
is
tip.
just,
Come on.
my tip is just look back at your life and try to see, ask yourself, what have I learned during this experience, even the bad ones? Because you will discover that there's so much more of what you are today that you have to thank those experiences for, good and bad.
Yeah, just about to say, I try to not distinguish between good and bad. It's just experiences, just things that we go through. Obviously, that becomes more difficult the more intense an experience may be. But ultimately, they're just experiences, right? And then it's what we attach to it, how we interpret it, how we use it, which makes it good or bad. So I love that thought. Love that thought, Sarah. Yeah.
I love that you don't label experiences. I love that.
Yeah.
That is another great thing that we can all do. Don't label experiences as good or bad. They're just experiences.
And don't get me wrong, it's not perfect. But especially when we look back, I think that gives us an opportunity with calm and presence to kind of say and decide, okay, what did I learn from that, rather than was that a good or bad experience? And what did I learn from that? That's beautiful. That's beautiful. So, any final thoughts for our solopreneur friends?
Other than all these wonderful things we've already said. So if I have to give, like the 3 points. So
yeah.
I
love how organized you are.
I'm trying to like, so first thing, learn how to perceive your stress as a wonderful opportunity.
Okay.
So stress is your friend. Stress is your friend. And it can tell you more about yourself than any glorious achievement moments you had in your life. So
okay, so embrace stress and use it to your advantage.
Embrace stress, explore it. The second thing is, don't label experiences. This is Stefano Palumbo, but it's Sara Pittaluga too.
Co-authored.
Co-authored. So label them as experiences because they all have wonderful things to teach you. And they are all part of who you are today. I think that is what is really uplifting. I wouldn't be what I'm today if I didn't go through this and this and that.
Yeah, yeah.
And number 3, just because I prefer uneven numbers
of 3,
is every time you feel you're not having fun. And with fun, I don't mean you're laughing like mad. I mean you don't perceive any sort of lightness within your body, within your soul, within your life. Stop and try to get that back first.
Wow. I was just thinking for myself there. So I was making a mental note. As you know, I loved our session together, meeting my stress twin. And I must say, managing that a lot better. So thank you.
I'm happy to hear that. We will do that again next Tuesday.
I can't wait. I can't wait.
Maybe it will be different, because then we can move on to the other part of the workshop that you haven't experienced yet.
Yeah.
So I'm so thrilled to take you on that little journey and see what's happening.
Awesome. Sarah, thank you so much.
Stefan, thank you so much. Every time we talk and we have one of these meetings, I do feel lighter. So
you do. Me too. And I've been on my feet all day, but I feel nice and like a feather. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much, Sara.
Ciao, ciao.
Ciao for now.